Hey, Nelson, alcoholic addict. That's not my real name. That is a pen name that I use here at LOL Sober. I went to a meeting in another state recently, which is something I really love to do. It's just new flavors, new people, new ways of doing meetings. It's great. I love it. And when I went to this one, I desperately needed it. I had traveled about 1,000 miles over 5 days in a minivan with my wife and my 3 kids and a lot of a lot of baggage, literally and figuratively. So nerves were frayed, egos were damaged, disaster was imminent. I think we've all probably been on those kinds of road trips. Disaster is probably too strong of a word. On trips like these, where I'm into my third or fourth day without a meeting, but I make one phone call, I'm okay. I never get cravings to go get drunk or get drugs or anything, but I do get cravings to start acting more impulsive. I argue with people more. I take things very seriously. Everything you say to me that might be constructive criticism, I consider it a deep wound to my soul, and therefore I must defend myself. It's all the behaviors that they often came along with being an active alcoholic. I've made a lot of progress on them, but they are not gone. They come back, In recovery, we use the term emotional sobriety a lot. And, physical sobriety and emotional sobriety are two different things for me. And that's what I'm talking about here is emotional sobriety. And anyway, I got to a meeting, and the meeting was on step 9. And I always find I really enjoyed this meeting. I always soak up more at meetings when I'm a little bit depleted myself, and I find that my ears are a little bit more open. I'm not playing on my phone at all. So I was soaking it up when we were going around the room at this meeting, and it came around to a guy. He had like a southern twang, even though we were in Pennsylvania. And he was a very good speaker, and I was enjoying listening to him discuss his experience with Step 9. But then he took a step back and said something along the lines of, I'm going to try to do a southern accent. Sorry, that might be offensive, but I'll apologize. I'll do a step 9 later on it. But he was like, steps 4 and 5 were about me getting right with myself. Steps 6 and 7 were about getting right with God. And steps 8 and 9 were about getting right with others. I love that phrase, getting right. And that idea of getting right is a lot. I mean, getting right with everything is one of the fundamental parts of what the steps did for me. So I was just like, whoa, I guess I always kind of knew, but what those 6 steps did, but I never heard it put so succinctly in, like 10 seconds. Step 4 and 5, they deal with me. I took a deep dive of where all of my anger and resentment resided and then what my role was in all of it. And I remember looking at the pages of my notebook and feeling like I was looking at the blueprint for my alcoholism, everything I needed to know. It was just right there. It was like a roadmap to a bottle of booze. And I had to clear out, I knew it when I looked at it, I had to clear out as much of that crap as possible because it was poison just poured out onto a notebook page. And then step 6 and 7 were about taking a look at my character defects. And I think the word humility appears in our literature like 950 times when discussing these 2 steps. So, humility and character defects, it was getting right with God and the universe for me. And then steps 8 and 9 are about obviously making amends to others. And so the way he described it was so perfect. And I've always been so glad that steps 8 and 9 are where they are in the program. Mostly early on, I felt that way because I just didn't want to make amends to people for a while. I wanted to kick the can down the road. But at a certain point, I realized that I'm glad they're later in the steps because I had a lot of work to do to get to that place where I could do good amends. Saying sorry is really easy. I said sorry my whole life, even when I wasn't, Do I mean it? When I say sorry, do I mean it? Or am I saying it like my 7-year-old does sometimes, which she goes like, sorry. Like she thinks you're the asshole for asking her to stop spilling ketchup all over the living room. And It sounds ridiculous to say this now, but I still sometimes rush to say sorry for things when I have no real intention of changing my behaviors or my attitude. I'm saying sorry about that just because I want you off my ass. I don't mean it. And that usually means I didn't get right with myself or God before I tried to get right with you. I just rushed it out the door to say sorry. And I showed up a half hour late to lunch with somebody. We had kind of a flexible lunch, but I did say like 1 o'clock, and then I showed up at 1:30. And so I showed up late, and I said to her, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. But I wasn't really. I had been blabbing with some friends, having a good old time, and I realized I was going to be late for lunch. And I just kept going. I just kept talking. And deep down, I was thinking, she'll get over it. That's fine and all, but hey, I'm really sorry about that part, that was bullshit, man. I hadn't quickly unpacked my role in it and then calculated an apology based on real spirituality. It was just a throwaway, and I'd probably do it again today. And so I got to keep an eye on that. Man, to summarize, I'd like to thank the man with the southern accent wherever you are. I'm going to be spending some time this week thinking about how I get right going forward in my life. Thanks for letting me share.